So basically this whole area, just to orient you guys, we're 1,500 meters above sea level, and about 25 miles just over that cliff that way is the ocean. So just so you can kind of picture, if you can see Guatemala on a map, you know, just we're kind of southwest, and if you go right over there, you can get to the ocean quite quickly. This whole area, this whole lake and the surrounding volcanoes was formed about 85,000 years ago when there was a massive volcanic eruption. And it was called, I write it down because I forget, the Caldera Basin. So basically there was a huge eruption, and pretty much all the life from Mexico to Costa Rica just vanished. It was huge. So if you think about it, and when you look around at how beautiful this is, you can imagine it's kind of interesting to think that all of this actually came from a huge disaster. But it's gorgeous now, and we've got 3 volcanoes. So we've got San Pedro and Toliman and Atitlan. And Atitlan is about 10,000 years old, and San Pedro is actually 40,000 years old or so. And Toliman is just a bit younger. And so when Toliman shut down, it actually gave birth to Atitlan, and that's why Atitlan is a little bit younger. And Atitlan has actually had between 1486 and 1853-ish, it's actually gone off a dozen or so different times. So it hasn't gone off since 1853, but it is still considered active. It's just dormant. The lake itself actually goes down about 350 meters as well. So if you can picture it, it's kind of like there was a huge explosion, and out of that these volcanoes formed, and then this huge, really, really deep lake formed as well. And they've actually discovered all kinds of ruins and stuff down at the lake, and they think that they're actually buried cities from hundreds and hundreds of years ago down there. And the lake, another interesting thing about the lake is that there's no where for it to run off into other rivers or the ocean as well. So in recent years we've had a lot of rains and a lot of hurricanes, and the lake keeps rising. So some locals will tell you that it goes in cycles and it rises and falls and rises and falls, but at the moment it's been rising quite a bit. And if you look around the lake, you'll notice that a lot of the houses are submerged. This farm is only 2 years old, and we're sitting on the 4th dock. So the dock used to be way out there. I was told by Nick that where this little hut is, where the workers sleep at night, under that is where they originally built the well. So you can imagine how much the lake is rising as a result of all that. And also, what else shall we talk about? So in 1976 there was an earthquake. Has anybody heard about the earthquake? And it actually killed 26,000 people around this lake, so it was a huge earthquake. And when we go up and talk a little bit about Cobb and earth building, I did a few workshops on the weekend, earth building. It's kind of interesting because concrete building has only been around for about 100 years, and it's really unfortunate that around that time a lot of people started building their houses around the lake with concrete, and before that they had been mostly using cob and bajareca, which is like a type of earth building. So all of the concrete buildings collapsed in that earthquake, which is why a lot of people died. And
the same one that affected a lot of Central America.
yeah, it was a 7.5 earthquake. Yep. Yeah, and it was pretty huge. So a lot of people, the good news is a lot of people are actually getting back into earth building as well. And so, again, we'll talk about it when we get up to the cob oven, but there's all types of earth building, but basically it is just using your earth and building with it. You can do a soil test and you can tell how much clay versus sand you've got in your soil. And if you don't have the right amounts, you can add a bit more of one or the other. But basically from that, you just build your house. It's amazing. I can show you guys photos if you're at all interested. Max and I took a few workshops last weekend. And you just basically add water to your dirt and make little bricks and build your house from it. It's incredible. And these houses, they say there's one in San Pablo that's 500 years old. So they're pretty cool. And I know Jolene's into earth building. She's bought some property, I don't know if she's told you guys, just across the lake, and is going to be looking into building. So yeah, that's a bit about earth building. And what else shall we talk about? So Hurricane Stan, did anybody hear about that as well? So recently we've had a lot of hurricanes, a lot of water rising as well. Hurricane Stan was in 2005, which was right across the lake in Panaba. That town has a population of 37,000, and after Hurricane Stan there was a huge mudslide, and it killed 1,000 people, and 5,000 were left homeless. So this lake has seen a lot of disasters, but at the same time it's still such a gorgeous place to live. All the people here are so beautiful. If you guys speak Spanish at all and get a chance to talk to the locals, a lot of people, a lot of families have been affected by disaster, but they've got a lot of interesting stories to tell, and they're amazing. And this energy, the lake has a crazy energy. It's really, really powerful. You'll notice the longer you stay here, I think there's just something happening on the lake. It's pretty cool. It's an amazing place to be. And so, what else shall we talk about? Oh yeah, the clothing. I just found this fact out, which was kind of interesting. Have you guys noticed around the lake how the women wear clothing that are striped, and then they've usually got beautiful patterns on them, like flowers or birds or something? So it's really interesting because when the Spanish came, all the people from the different towns had to wear different color striped shirts. And then it was the Mayan influence that they started putting on the beautiful embroidery and all the flowers, and so that's pretty cool, because I don't know, I've often wondered why they all had these striped shirts with these gorgeous embroidered patterns on them. And that's why, so it's a mix of the Spanish with the Mayan influence as well.
Yeah, and they wear different ones still, so like, Juan was just telling us that here in Chakras, the classical is red.
Yeah.
With like the short shorts and red stripes, but that you won't see people wearing that so much like in San Pedro.
Santa Catarina is like blue stripes, and they like put like sparkly, shiny things in their hair.
Okay, interesting. So yeah, and some of the towns still, you know, wear their colors, which is pretty cool.
I have a friend who's documenting that. Actually, she's going around the lake to different villages and documenting.
Oh, really?
Which means which
and where it comes from. It's really cool. I find that stuff fascinating. Also interesting to note that a lot of the towns around the area, so there were originally two different people. There were the Quechaquiles, am I saying it right? And the Sutahils. And so those were the two main Mayan tribes that lived around the area. I believe it's Santiago, San Juan, San Pablo, and San Pedro that were the Sutahil.
I think San Pedro was not, but I'm not totally sure about that.
And the other ones were the Quechaquiles. So those were the two main languages spoke around the lake. And I don't know if you guys have had a chance to explore at all, but Chakras is where most of our workers live, and it's about a 15-minute walk down that path. They speak Sutahil. So, and there are also a lot of other dialects around the lake. Someone told me there were once about 200. I think there's about 20 now. But so their main language, I mean, they all have their own main languages in their village that they speak, but they also, when they go around the lake and when they speak to foreigners and gringos like us, they speak Spanish. So a lot of them speak two languages, but some of them only speak a little bit of Spanish and still retain their own language from their village, which is amazing. Biodiversity in all forms is pretty incredible. You'll notice that's a common theme that I push if you take any of my classes. So what else shall we talk about? Oh yeah, I want to talk about this just because I remember last night as we were picking up our mats. So you guys know the mats that we sit on when we eat is all made out of this stuff here, and it's called tule. And it's also home to a lot of native birds. So when you're out here meditating in the morning, you'll often hear lots of bird activity going on right here. So it's pretty incredible stuff. It's very resilient, very durable, and it's what they weave a lot of the things, a lot of their mats and things around the lake and baskets and such. But yeah, it's also fish in the lake. Actually, they used to have a lot of this one type of native fish, which was kind of like a tilapia. And then in 1858, they wanted to boost their tourism and actually introduced black bass into the lake, which kind of took over. And so that's what a lot of the fishermen fish for now. I mean, the lake started depleting. There weren't quite so many fish in the lake anymore. So, and then what was left of the native fish were actually kind of outcompeted by the black bass. So there's still fish for the fishermen, which is a great thing. You see the fishermen every morning out fishing, but there's not so many of the native fish that they used to have around here. And some of the native birds as well that fed on those native fish have gone extinct as a result. And also what's really cool, so we'll shift back, and if you guys look at the farm and you see those crazy pineapple topped plants, there's one sticking up right there. They're all around the lake. Those are called Mahones, and the locals use those to divide the properties. So can everybody see which ones I'm talking about? They're like really tall, spiky. You'll see right next to us here are tomato farmers, our neighbors right here. They've also got one, and they go all the way up. And so it's pretty cool because I think it's in June. There's 2 weeks in June. I could be wrong about the month, but they actually flower, and the flowers are edible. And you'll notice when you look around the lake, you can see all the dividing lines of the properties because they're all flowering. So You'll notice a lot of the properties around the lake, they're really, really skinny and they're really long. So a lot of the farmers have a little bit of lakefront property, which is decreasing as the water is rising, but then that goes way, way, way up. So they usually have, you know, their vegetable crops and things right out here, and then they've got their coffee plants and they've got all their timber and everything that goes way up. And if you ever get a chance to walk up the volcano, you'll notice you'll be walking straight up for about an hour or two, and then you'll come across like a 5-year-old with a huge bag full of, you know, lumber or firewood that they just do, you know, every day or every other day, and it's just incredible. I don't know if you guys have tried to climb the stairs. I puff like crazy on that. The altitude, I keep blaming that. It's been 3 months. I don't think I can blame the altitude anymore. So yeah, that's pretty cool. Those plants are interesting.
What are they called again, sorry?
They're called Mahones. Mahones, that's what I was told by Juan. So again, you're not sure if it's the native name, the Sutahil name, Spanish name, or what the gringos call it, but those are Mahones. And also, if you look just to the left over here, all of this in the water is water hyacinth. So I'm going to talk to you guys a little bit about nitrogen. I want to touch on so many things today, but I'll just briefly touch on a lot of them. So that is water hyacinth. We use that in our gray water system, which I'll show you more once we go up to the top. But water hyacinth is, well, it thrives on nitrogen, as all plants and living things do, but you'll notice that's about as big as it gets here in the lake. And unfortunately, we've just recently cleaned out the water hyacinth from our gray water system, but when I get up there, I'll show you, it can grow really, really, really big with a lot of nitrogen. And nitrogen comes from all the phosphates and soaps that we use. So when that gets put into the gray water system, the water hyacinth soaks it up. So it helps to clean out all of our water before it comes back into the lake. But it's really interesting to note the difference in size between that and the one that we feed all of the soaps and phosphates and things before they go in the lake. So gray water systems are awesome to have in general always, but particularly if everything else is just going to be dumped in the lake. So that was layer number one. So when I go up to the top, I'll tell you guys, and you know what it looks like down here.